morning. Counsel for the parties are here. The defendant is present. I assume we're ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank God. I have a written resentencing order, and I've made, I think, a dozen copies. They'll be available from the clerk for whoever wants one. If they run out, I guess we can make new copies. But this matter came on before the court for resentencing pursuant to evolving Supreme Court decisions which have declared mandatory life sentences without parole for juveniles unconstitutional. Consequently, this defendant was entitled to a youth sentencing hearing which was held on October 1st to the 8th, 2018. This is the court's analysis of the facts and arguments presented and the re-imposition of defendant's sentence. And this section is titled Prelude. On July 16th, 2011, an imperceptible but malevolent air engulfed the Hadley household, foreboding the dark events to come. Going about their daily tasks, Blake and Mary Jo Hadley were unaware of the stalker in their midst. How could they know their son Tyler planned to kill them that day and was watching them, biding his time and waiting for his chance? When it came, he sprang into action, using a framing claw hammer as his weapon. He bludgeoned both parents to death. By next day's end, he would be infamously known as the teenager who brutally killed his parents, dragged their bodies into a back bedroom, covered their mangled heads with towels, and buried their bodies beneath piles of household stuff. He then locked the door and tried his best to clean up the evidence of his crimes, while his parents' corpses cooled and stiffened. He threw a party for his friends. The party lasted well past midnight. During the festivities, Hadley shared his dark secret with his best friend, even showing him conclusive evidence of his crimes. Predictably, the friend could not keep the secret. After leaving the party, he reported the crimes to Crime Stoppers, who then forwarded the information to the Port St. Lucie Police Department. The police arrived at the Hadley household between 4 and 5 a.m. The officers entered the home, discovered the corpses, and promptly arrested Hadley. He has been in custody ever since. At the time of his arrest, he was 17 years old. Procedural history. In February 2014, Hadley entered his no contest plea to 2 counts of first-degree murder. The next month, he was sentenced to 2 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. He appealed his sentences, and they were reversed based upon United States and Florida Supreme Court decisions holding that mandatory life sentences without parole for juvenile murderers violated the 8th Amendment's prohibition of cruel and unusual punishment. One of the constitutional defects rendering such sentences invalid was the lack of any statutory provision allowing judicial discretion in crafting an individualized sentence. The other defect was the omission of any mechanism for a juvenile defendant to have his sentence judicially reviewed in a proceeding where evidence of improved maturity, judgment, and rehabilitation can be adduced. If, as part of the review, persuasive evidence is presented regarding these and similar attributes, it is possible that the court may reduce the original sentence. Because Hadley's original sentence did not allow for any judicial discretion at all, his case was remanded for resentencing with instructions to conduct an individualized sentencing hearing pursuant to Florida statutes, which were enacted in response to the Supreme Court decisions. And I list the various factors that are required to be considered, and there's no need to read them right now. Before proceeding to the required analysis of the factors set forth in the statute cited above, it is necessary to reconcile Florida's statutory scheme with certain language cited by the United States Supreme Court. The court has stated that for a juvenile to be sentenced to life without parole, emphasis court must find the juvenile to be irreparably corrupt and that his crime reflects permanent incorrigibility. Because Florida's statutory scheme requires a judicial review after 25 years, parenthetically, which would permit a much more meaningful review than a parole hearing, even in cases in which a life sentence is imposed, a life without the possibility of parole, parenthetically, or judicial review, sentence is impossible under Florida law, except in those rare cases where the juvenile defendant has been previously convicted of certain crimes which are not applicable to Hadley, emanating from a different and separate episode. And those crimes are listed in the order. And those exceptions do not apply to Mr. Hadley. Accordingly, the court need not make the findings quoted above if a life sentence is otherwise appropriate. Why did this happen? The evidence revealed that Hadley had some medical complications during his early years. He was born prematurely and undersized. His pediatrician diagnosed him with a thyroid disorder and referred him to an endocrinologist for proper treatment. By the time Hadley was 10, about 10, he exhibited low self-esteem and symptoms of anxiety and depression. Throughout his adolescent and early teenage years, Hadley's parents had arranged medical and mental health treatment for him, resulting at various times in prescriptions for genotropin for growth, Lavoxil for thyroid, SSRIs for depression and anxiety, Accutane for acne, and Adderall for ADHD. While taking each of these medications, Hadley was always under the care of a physician, and each of them testified that they neither saw nor received reports of Hadley exhibiting erratic or violent behavior. Since his adolescence, Hadley was a handful for his parents. He was disrespectful, disobedient, defiant, and dishonest, both lying to his parents and stealing from them. He would leave the house without permission, do drugs, drink, and stay out late, sometimes all night. Although never arrested, he self-reported engaging in drug sales, drug purchases, drug usage, arson, vandalism, thefts, and robberies. His parents, at their wits' end, eventually enrolled him in a daily treatment program referred to as REGA, R-E-G-A, which required him to attend Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Hadley's required attendance at REGA infuriated him. Evidence revealed Facebook chats in which he vented his hatred of the program, that he was feigning compliance, and that he was never going to stop using drugs. He was deceptive with the counselors at REGA because he feared his next stop would be an inpatient stint at Sandy Pines Mental and Rehab Hospital. His initial visit to REGA was on May the 26th, 2011, and his discharge notes, which were signed and dated July 18th, 2011, 2 days after the murders. He was diagnosed with depressive disorder not otherwise specified and anxiety disorder not otherwise specified. His last appointment was on July 14th, 2011, just 2 days before the murder. The sharp contrast between the sincerity of his words and his true feelings is evidenced by Riga discharge notes indirectly quoting him as saying that on a very recent family trip to Georgia, he enjoyed time with his father and family. These statements simply cannot be reconciled with the commission of 2 brutal murders on members of that same family just 2 days later. The evidence reflected that Hadley had low self-esteem and from early adolescence withdrew from everyone except his circle of friends. There was no evidence of any significant family or recreational activities. Efforts were made to introduce him to athletics or music, but he showed no interest. During this period, all the way up to the murders, Hadley continued to act out to his parents and engage in incorrigible behavior. All this time, he was consistently abusing marijuana, alcohol, licenses were available, they would take those as well. Chilling also involved listening to music, playing video games, chatting on Facebook, and conversing. Against this backdrop, one can see the deadly conflict starting to emerge. Mr. and Mrs. Hadley wanted their son to shape up and measure up. He refused to even try. All he wanted to do was chill with his friends. In his mind, his parents had created a dilemma for him, and in his own way, he started formulating his plan to resolve the dilemma. For months prior to the murders, and even on the morning of the murders, Hadley confided in friends that he hated his parents and the restrictions that they were placing on him. On numerous occasions, he referred to his mother as a bitch and a cunt. He admitted to his friends that he thought about killing them, afterwards having a party, and then killing himself. His friends did not take him seriously. July 16th, 2011. On that fateful day, several of Hadley's friends went to his house to hang out and smoke weed. While they were hanging out, Hadley's demeanor and sobriety were described as normal. Even after smoking marijuana, he was described as sober and in control. His parents were not home. Hadley told his friends that he was thinking about having a party that night. He mentioned his parents were going to be in Orlando and that he would be available to pick up friends that wanted to come. He also told his best friend privately that the night before he had stood over his sleeping parents with a pair of hedge clippers, contemplating killing them in their sleep. After several minutes, he decided not to and left the room. His friend shrugged it off. On July 16th, as word of the party spread, friends chatted with Hadley about the consequences of his parents crashing the party. In at least 2 chats, he reassured them that that was not going to happen. He also told everyone they didn't have to bring anything because he privately, emphasis added, knew he would be using his parents' stolen money to buy the party supplies and refreshments. As the 16th went on, his plan to murder his parents and host the party picked up steam like a runaway train, and it would not be derailed. The evidence suggests that his assurances about not having to worry about his parents were sent shortly before the murders, which, based on phone and ATM records, established that Mary Jo was alive at 4:42 p.m. At 8:15 p.m., Hadley confirmed on Facebook that the party was on. At 8:28, Hadley was photographed using his father's ATM card. Allowing several hours for Hadley to clean up his mother's and father's blood, it is safe to assume that the killings occurred sometime around 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. The details regarding the planning and commission of the murders are chilling. While casually talking to his friends about killing his parents a month and a half before the actual crimes, he revealed that he would wait until after his brother moved to North Carolina. And wait, he did. In preparation for his attack, he took his parents' phones and hid them, so if his plans went awry, they couldn't call for help. He had previously selected and hidden his weapon, a 17-inch framing hammer. This tool has claws that do not curve like those of a carpenter's hammer. Instead, they jut out straight perpendicular to the handle. As Hadley used both the blunt hammer side and the claw side in delivering his blows, one can imagine the depth of penetration and damage the claws would do to a human skull and body tissue. The autopsy photos showing the victims' gouged and cracked skulls bear this out. Before Hadley initiated his attack, he stood with his hammer for several minutes behind his mother, who was seated at her computer desk. He then struck her on the back of her head and began to pummel her with the hammer. This caused her to ask why and to scream hysterically, which brought his father from the master bedroom to see what was happening. Hadley then left his mortally wounded mother and began his attack on his father. The scuffle took them into the master bedroom, where Blake plaintively asked, "Tyler, why?" To which he responded, "Why the fuck not?" killing his father, he went back to his wounded mother and finished her off as well. As previously described, he then moved the bodies, tried to clean up the mess, and sent the word out that the party was on. The autopsy examinations revealed that Mary Jo had received 36 blows